And welcome to the Bloom Show, another episode of the Bloom Show and another special episode of co-host of the Bloom Show. And the intention of the Bloom Show is to help the flower industry innovate, connect, and bloom through building community, networking, and opportunities to collaborate. This show is truly for the floral community and has been for the last 2 to 3 years. So we really want to share with you. And one way that you could share is by commenting, giving a shout out to our two guests today, our co-host and our special guest. So today, and I'll get straight to it because I'm super excited to have it because it's really meaningful to me because us as New Bloom and above all flowers, we're very supportive of startups. And these are two of, I could say the original, and I'll dare to say two of the original startups, right? So we have Komet Sales, Alejandro Perez of Komet Sales, the founder of Komet Sales, and our host interviewing him today is Corrine, the founder of Details. We were just talking about that, how supportive they've been of the Bloom Show and of everything that Above All Flowers and New Bloom Solutions have done to help innovate, connect, and bloom the flower industry. So we are very honored to have Corrine as the guest host in connecting with a peer and a founder, a startup, so that they can share their stories. And Corrine's created some really cool interactive questions. So it's going to be a fun one. And we truly hope that you guys interact, chime in and ask questions yourself or just give a shout out. So please allow me to introduce to you your guest host for the day, Corrine, and the guest being interviewed, Alejandro Perez of Komet Sales.
Hello, Alex.
Well, hello. I'm great. How are yourself?
I'm good.
Are you to be here?
Yes. Are you ready to do this and take over the Bloom Show? I think we're
always ready.
Yes.
Ready.
So my first question for you, right out of the box, how excited are you about this interview on a scale from 1 to 10?
45.
So, 45. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. I love it.
Yep.
You're way off of the charts already.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So for people who don't know you, obviously we've been friends for quite a long while. I've admired you for years and years, being a fellow technology startup in the floral industry. But do you want to give them just a recap kind of who is Alejandro Perez?
Sure. I mean, very quickly, because I know that we don't have a whole lot of time and we have a lot of questions. Very quickly, I started this platform that, called Komet Sales that, focuses on vertically integrating the floral supply chain from growers, importers, wholesalers to retailers. In a nutshell, that's pretty much it. And on a personal note, I'm just a passionate, guy, that fell in love with technology and somehow ended up in the flower industry and, saw an opportunity and kind of like, went for it. And here we are.
Yeah. Anybody that's met you know that you talk really fast and it's going to be fun for them to keep up with you. But I just have a question, like, what was the first thing you thought of when you woke up this morning?
This morning, what was the first thing that I woke up this morning? That I wanted to drive my kid to school.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, I love that. So you're full hands-on dad. Yep.
I normally drive him, pick him up, try to get very involved with the kids. They grow up. I mean, my oldest kids are 14 and 16, and it's like I don't even know when it happened. And then, of course, COVID came, and it kind of like stole like 2 years from everybody, which was kind of strange. So
yeah. Well, so with being an entrepreneur, I'm sure that's one of the things you kind of drive home to your kids. Did you always know that you were going to be an entrepreneur when you were younger? What did you think you were going to do?
I didn't really know, but I've been doing like side jobs and hustling since I was like probably like 14 years old or 13 years old. I started by typing papers. I realized that I developed the skill set to type really fast by just taking typing classes at school, and I just took it really serious. And then I realized that most of my schoolmates were really, they were lazy. And I realized that if I charged them, to type in their papers, it was phenomenal. But then I realized that most people gave me in the papers the day before. So I came up with this thing that if you gave me the paper 2 days before, it would be like, 20 cents a page. But if it was, 1 day, if it was 2 days before, 20 cents, 1 day before, it was like, $1.50 or something like that. I came up with a scale, and 99% of my schoolmates gave me the papers the day before, like at 7 o'clock at night. And I would kind of like work for 8 hours, drink a lot of coffee, type in a lot of papers, but I would make like some serious money for a 14-year-old just by typing papers. So,
that's amazing. I love that. So from the get-go, you were always hustling with your friends. I really appreciate that. So tell me, how did you get into the floral industry?
So it was again, like one of those very, serendipitous things in life. I was, going to college in Medellin, and I was working in this textile company as a programmer, and a friend of mine called me like, "Hey man, my dad is a partner in this company called Galleria Farms, and they want to do these programs in Access and reports. Can you go to Miami for a couple of days and do it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I went to Miami, and that's kind of how I got involved in the industry. And then to answer the question from Brandy, I think that scarcity plays a big role. When you start the day and you think that you have 12 hours to work, you kind of like misspend those hours, But when you start the day and you say, "You know what, I'm going to work for 6 hours, or I'm going to work for 4 hours, I'm going to work for 8 hours, whatever," then suddenly, you realize that time is really valuable. And then whatever you're doing, you're actually doing. And you'll be amazed that if you decide to work 4 hours a day, you probably get more things accomplished than people that work 40 hours, a week, just by being at the job, but not by being focused on the tasks that they're actually doing. So that's how I kind of find that work-life balance.
Yeah, I think your focus is and you're very focused. I from everything we've talked about over the years, I know that when you have a mission, you really dig right in.
Right,
yeah. Did you have an aha moment when you were developing Komet? Like, did you know like this is what you're gonna do, or did it evolve over like time?
The aha moment was that, everything that I had tried up to that point hadn't worked. And then we kind of got a little traction, from Komet, from the, 2 companies that were using it. And at that point, then we were like 5 people strong. And at that point, we, I kind of got together my team and I said, "Hey, you know what? Let's just focus on, Komet sales. Let's just focus on building this product." And it took a lot of visits, hundreds of visits to prospects and customers, and just, "You're not ready." But it was phenomenal because you would visit people and you would pick their brains. And I would just jot notes like there's no tomorrow. And then you would come back again a couple of months later saying, "Hey, here's all the things that, you mentioned, and here they are." And you would do that. We did that. I did that, dozens, if not hundreds of times with a bunch of people. And eventually you get to a point that, it just makes sense. It works.
Yeah. Well, I think people really appreciate that when you take action and actually have created a solution that they've been longing for. They just didn't even know they really needed it until it's provided to them. We have a question from Amanda. Who else do you consider an innovator in the industry? You don't have to say
I think that if you go back to, I guess the 70s, when I wasn't even born, you had people like Luis Lucio from Melix, and, they started doing like consolidations on error bills. And I if I recall correctly, maybe he was one of the first ones that kind of started doing that. And kudos to them, because that was a really interesting concept. And when you think about it today, most of the industry uses, consolidated error bills. Most companies, especially the smaller ones, they use a consolidated error bill. So those are, some of the people that, when you think about, where the industry is at today, those are the people that laid the foundation so that we can actually operate as the way that we operate today. So that would be one of my key people.
Awesome. So how did you choose the name Komet?
I wish that there was a more interesting story, but the truth is I wanted to build a website to sell flowers. And I just came up with the name Komet and Komet Sales because I was going to sell flowers. And I tried to recruit a friend of mine. And I was like, "Listen, here's the opportunity. It's a website. We're going to sell flowers. I don't have any money. I can't really pay you anything to get started." And she, she was a buyer in a company. And of course, that didn't go through. So, so then I kind of started doing the software thing. And then a friend of mine, George Cantafio from Spring, Miami, called me one day and said, "Hey man, did you realize that Komet is a cleanser?" And of course I looked it up, and of course it's the cleanser with the yellow and green stripes. So I was like, "Oh man, that sucks," because it kind of damages my brand that didn't really exist. So I just flipped it from C to K, and then it's Komet Sales with a K. It's that simple. Yeah. I wish that there was more, more thought process behind it, but that was it. That's really how I came up with the name.
Hey, it works.
Perfect.
Got to be concise. So does Komet only service the floral industry? I've often wondered if you have your business in any other industry.
No, we only. At the end of the day, I'm a big believer, like you said before, in being focused. And one expression that I consider myself that I have a PhD on is Jack of all trades, master of none. And when you try to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing. So we decided to solely focus on the flower industry. And again, we still have, from my perspective, we still have a long way to go. We're just getting started. So that's why, that being said, we're not, we only focus on flowers. And for the foreseeable future, we're only going to continue focusing on flowers.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think that there's so many people that try to do it all, and you just have to focus in on what you're really good at. And,
and it's hard because, the neighbor's lawn always looks greener. So it's like, it's hard in the flower industry, but it's going to be super simple in the other industry. And then you go in there and you realize like, nah, not really. So it's like, yeah. So that's, and again, I started like 4 or 5 other businesses, separate to the flower industry because flowers and technology were really hard. So those other businesses were really easy. And of course, none of them took off. So that kind of like brings me back to, being super focused.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So what has running Komet impacted how you see the industry?
I mean, I think that we've added, we've at the end of the day, and I've said this multiple times talking with different people. At the end of the day, all we do is just get ideas from people that are out there in the trenches. And, I'm a good listener, and it's like, I ask a lot of questions, and then I just go back to my team and say, hey, listen, it's like, there's an opportunity to do this. What if we do? And then suddenly with the team that we have in place, like magic comes through. So do I think that, have we made an impact? Yes, absolutely. And, we try to, our philosophy is to allow our customers to do more with less. And, one of the things that has really, again, there's a lot of things, but when you think about it, 20 years ago, all the boxes came in with no labels, and it was a manual process, whatever. Fast forward to today, having somebody that ships products with no labels, it still happens, but it's very strange. It's a very, it's because they'll have a very unique product and maybe whatever, and somebody will deal with it. But for the most part, it doesn't, every company is all the companies have really raised the bar in terms of how they actually operate. And the other thing that's impressive is when you look at online sales, and you look at online sales, say a decade ago, to online sales today, most companies, except a very few, most companies were doing 0 online sales 10 years ago. And when you look at what they're doing today, I think that if somebody's doing 20% or less of online sales, they're kind of like falling behind, maybe 30%.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how you've basically taken something and revolutionized some of the processes that were happening. And I don't know if that's very bold for me to say, but as an outsider looking in, that's exactly what we see happening. Is like Komet has basically helped transform the logistical side of the industry, and we applaud you for that. Like, huge kudos.
I appreciate it, but it's like, what, the the kudos, it's not only for it's not only for my team, but for the for the hundreds of, or if not thousands of people that have really given us the ideas. It's like, at the end of the day, when you look at our warehouse management system, we walked into the cooler and you would wear like this jacket, and you'd be like freaking freezing with the blowers like super loud, and you'll be dealing with the guys in the cooler picking the boxes, and they're the ones that are giving you the ideas. Hey, listen, it would be very, very efficient if when I did this, something happened. It's like, oh my God, that's a phenomenal question. How do we solve that? And then you would kind of like give it a shot, go back to the cooler and say, hey, how do you like this? Oh, it's great. However, boom, and you would do that, dozens and dozens and dozens of times again, and then eventually you get to something that's pretty sturdy, pretty solid. But again, I think that it's a collaborative effort, between us as a company and our customers and their customers and their vendors and the people that are running logistics and everybody. It's just a matter of opening up and listening.
Yeah, well, Mike is right. You're far too humble, and you've definitely changed the way the game is played. So I second that. So what is the best advice that a mentor or friend has given you over the years?
I did make a mistake, and I never really had a mentor. I would have saved so much trouble by just kind of like finding somebody and saying, hey, could you mentor me? But on the same token, I've gotten a lot of advice from a lot of different people. It's so much that I can't really think of one particular piece of advice. I think that I've been lucky enough to just, because of what we do, you normally have to go and talk to a business owner, and as you're selling the system, you naturally establish a conversation, and that conversation, it's like, it kind of like, it's not only about selling the system, but it's about philosophy and how you run their business and all that stuff. And I think that it's by having that broad exposure to a bunch of people. Some people that I meet, I go like, oh my God, I hate this philosophy. I would never do that. I've gotten advice like, you already have 20 people, you built the system, you should fire everybody, leave a skeleton crew of 5 people, and kind of like reap the benefits. And I was like, okay, thanks, but that's really not how I think. So it's like, again, I can't really pinpoint one particular thing. I am very grateful because a lot of people have really chipped in and given me, phenomenal advice.
No, that's amazing. So I met you, I think maybe 7 or 8 years ago at a WUFSA event. And you were very involved in it. What struck me as I felt like when I met you or heard you speak, I was like, wow, he is really transforming that side of the industry. Whereas my dream is to help florists on kind of the other side. So it was really neat to see that there's someone that's doing similar kind of work. And you don't meet those type of people very often, but do you go to a lot of events, and do you find that these are helpful in like conversating with your customers, or what do you hope to get out of going to different conventions and things?
That's a good question. So the first part is, yes, we try to go to as many events as possible. I think that we probably participate in most industry events. We normally take a big crowd. I mean, we try to take a big team, as big as we possibly can. And the reasoning for that is you get a lot of intel, just by talking to people. Remember, when you're at a show, you're bumping into people, and they can be the operations manager, or they can be the sales manager, or a salesperson, or somebody that's an AR, or somebody that's an AP, or they could be, myriads of roles. And again, you just ask people questions like, hey, what's bugging you? What could we make, what could we do to make your life better? And it's, you'll get from everything. You'll get everything from, people that absolutely hate your guts up to people that, really, are really like what you do. It doesn't matter. I love feedback. And, when you go to a show, you can collect a lot of feedback. Sometimes, the only thing, my only recommendation is never take it personal, because every now and then you get nasty stuff, human beings, sometimes they're just plain nasty. So it's like, if you don't take it personal, it doesn't matter. And then if you don't take it personal, there's a great formula from a guy called Ray Dalio from Bridgewater Associates that says, pain plus reflection equals progress. So sometimes you'll hear like something really, really, it's hard, maybe not nasty, it's just hard. Maybe it's a hard truth. That's the painful part. But if you reflect upon it, guess what? You can make a lot of progress. And when you go to a show and you go with more people from your team to the show, and everybody has that mindset, and everybody can talk to a bunch of different people, the amount of intel that you get from the shows, it's just, absurd. It's like, I couldn't compare it to anything else. And a lot of people go like, oh, I'm not going to go to the shows because I meet the same people from the same customers, same vendors, same everything. Mm-hmm. I completely disagree with that. I think that every time that I go to a show, I meet great, new, phenomenal people that chip in and give you ideas or plant seeds. And maybe they'll give you an idea that you can't execute right away, but they definitely planted a seed, and a couple of, weeks, months, years later, boom, that idea flourishes into something that's freaking phenomenal.
Hey, we're in the industry of planting seeds and watching what happens from it. Yep. So I think that that's great advice. And if no one hears from this, they can take that away. What separates Komet from similar platforms? Because there's a few competitors that you have, I think. I don't really pay much attention to them, though, to be honest with you. But what is making your product stand out more than the others?
The people. I guess, well, the team is a big deal. I think that I'm lucky enough to have a phenomenal team of people. We're 86 people strong, and it's just a phenomenal crew. People that are really passionate about what they do. They drink the Komet Kool-Aid. Every day they're trying to make things better, for our external customers, for our internal customers. And having that drive, when you have alignment from such a big, diverse group of people, it just makes, magical things happen. Now, compared to, the other platforms, I think that all the other platforms are doing a phenomenal job. And by the way, I love competition, because competition keeps you on your toes. You don't like, at least, from my side, I'm always thinking like, hey, there's somebody that's going to come up with something that's bigger, better, faster, cheaper, whatever. So it's like, that keeps you on our toes. And if you, at the end of the day, only the paranoid survive, and you need to be a little bit paranoid about it. So that's the way that we operate. And if you're paranoid about that stuff, it's great to have the competition. Now, on the flip side, I'm a big believer of, instead of focusing on, like a lot of companies go, off the charts to kind of like make their slice of the pie bigger. I kind of like focus, the strategy that we use is we kind of like come up with things that make the overall pie bigger. Because if the overall pie gets bigger, our slice by definition is going to get bigger. And so are my competitor slices, because at the end of the day, competition is good. So.
Yeah. And keeping that innovation moving forward, and, the best ideas kind of come from the collective, like you were previously saying. So, I think there's something to learn there. How do you keep your team motivated?
Oof, that's a great question.
Yeah,
Well,
unpack that
first of
one
all,
in a
first of all,
soundbite.
yeah, for anybody that's running, I guess a business, particularly a tech business, I would strongly recommend a book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things from Ben Horowitz. And my takeaway from that book is people, product, profits. So first and foremost, you focus on the people. You invest on the people, and then those people take care of your product, and then that product, if it's played right, that's gonna generate profits. So to keep our people motivated, we innovate in a lot of stuff. We number one, we treat our team, they're adults and we treat them as adults. And I know that everybody says that, but one thing is saying it, the other thing is living it. It's very different. And we've done all these great things. We have all these great perks, a lot of flexibility. We have a 4-day week. We invest in training courses. In education. We use the latest cutting edge tools. We just have, again, we take care of our team. If somebody has a problem, we're there for them. We share the vision. We share like, hey, here we are, here's where we want to go. And then when you look back, I'm lucky enough to have a core team that's been with me for many, many years now. So now it's like when people go back and say, hey, this is where we used to be, and this is where we are, and this is where we're heading, people get excited. We also focus on we do a lot of experimentation. And if something fails, it's like, hey, there's no chastising for failure. It's more like, hey, we failed. What did we learn from this experiment so that we don't make the same mistake again? And then we move forward. That's it. So I think that's what keeps the team really motivated.
Yeah, I love that. What's the hardest thing about being a leader and leading your team?
I think that the hardest thing to me for as being a leader is when I learned to being open about my vulnerabilities, because I think it's a very cultural thing. It's like, oh, you never say what where you suck at or what you're not good at, and blah 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 blah. And I don't know. It's like I think that in a lot of it's also very culture driven depending on where you're from. But I think that overall, the general culture is, you have to be like tough and rough and all that stuff. And I think that that's, from my perspective, I might be wrong. I think that it's a mistake. I think that the more that you show your vulnerabilities to your team, the better that they, the more they trust you, because they realize like, hey, this is a real human being. He has issues with his family and his kids and his wife and his whatever and everything. He's got all the same problems that everybody has. So that really helps. That was probably like the hardest thing that I started working on, maybe, when I joined Vistage probably 6 years ago. So
yeah. What was the first milestone that you hit in your business where you knew you were like hitting success? What was it?
That's a great question. I guess once we had, I don't know, like maybe like 20 customers and they started using the system, and like there was like traction, and I still remember the day that somebody called the office and said, hey, I'm using Komet. And it was like the first time that somebody actually said, like, we're using Komet, like bringing the system like to life. That was pretty neat. And that was a while ago, but that was pretty neat. So yeah, I guess, yeah, that's kind of like when we realized like, hey, we're onto something. It's like at the end of the day, when you add value, real value, that's when I think that you need to keep pushing forward. And it doesn't matter if it looks like it's not going to work or something's not focusing, something it's not really working. But when you focus on adding value, that's when you realize that that's the path that you want to keep taking.
Yeah. Do you so I have a question about the coding part. Like, yep. Just because we're both in tech, do you speak to your team in Spanish or English, and do you code in Spanish or English? Like,
that's a good question. So it's like we have a pretty diverse team, and some of our team members don't speak Spanish, and some of our team members don't speak English. Most of them speak Spanish. A few of them don't speak English. Don't speak Spanish. Most of them speak Spanish. But I think that that's also part of the magic. It's like, you sit down in a meeting and you have some developers that don't speak English, and you have a product owner who doesn't speak Spanish, and there's somebody in the middle that's kind of like translating. So it's a great mix. I mean, it definitely makes things a little harder, but it also allows an opportunity for growth, especially for the non-English speaking people that are trying really hard to learn English. Normally they're really good at writing and reading. They're not so good at talking. And to answer your question, is like most of our documentation most of it is in English. I wouldn't be surprised if there's pieces in Spanish and stuff like that, but we try to, when it comes to documentation and to coding, we try to keep things, as much as possible in English. Now, in full candidness, Komet is 12 years old, so it's like this. The code is, there's some places that it's like there's a mix, and again, as we go back and we refactor, we clean stuff up. But yeah, so but when it comes to the actual technical documentation, we try to keep everything in English.
So with such a busy schedule, what do you do to relax? Like, how do you unwind? Do you ever unwind, first and foremost?
I know, you'd be surprised. I'm pretty fast paced, but it's like I'll go riding my bike, so I have an e-bike, an e-mountain bike, and I'll go riding my bike. Normally I ride on my own, and I ride on my own because I wear I wear some headsets, headphones, and I'll just listen to, blinks, like audiobooks, like summarized audiobooks. And then, you're pedaling and you're going through these tracks, downhill or whatever on your own. And if you need to be like really focused, because if you're not, you're going to crash and you're going to crack a rib. But then you're also listening to audiobooks, which is, which makes it like triple, efficient, because you're learning, you're working out, and you're doing like, forest bathing, which is, relaxing in the middle of a forest where there's no human beings in, 2 miles around. So that's really what I do to wind down. Or I'll go out and I'll ride my bike, my motorcycle, or I'll hang out with my wife and, just chill. But yeah, and I do it. I mean, believe it or not, I like to work hard, but I also like to play hard. So I take a lot of time off. I call it shortcations. We'll take off, I don't know, a lot of times a year, and nobody notices. But again, you kind of like need to really kind of like cool down so that when you come back, you can go, full blown with 100% energy.
Well, I think it's because you have a great team too. They keep the wheels turning while you're away.
Absolutely, I have the best team in the world. I'm the most grateful for the team that I have.
So we're both going to be at the Bloom after party at WFSA.
Absolutely.
Up here. Yep. I think it's in a few days.
Next week.
About that, and I really appreciate all the collaborations you do. Like, you're really very, very supportive in the industry. So we all see that. So
you're welcome.
You. Yeah. So I have I have a few more questions. In all honesty, I think I made 73 questions for Alejandro Perez, but we're gonna keep it short here. So I have some rapid fired questions that we're gonna just rapid, really fast.
I'm ready.
Are you a morning or a night person?
Morning.
Beach or mountains?
Both.
Oh. Aisle or window seat?
Aisle.
What's your favorite industry event to attend?
FTC, Pusa.
What is your favorite TV show right now?
Oh, I don't really watch a whole lot of TV. I think, I wouldn't even know.
Okay.
Yeah, no favorites.
Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Favorite drink?
Beer.
Okay. And you gave up alcohol for a while there, I feel like.
I did. Yeah, like for 3 years I went cold turkey.
Yeah, inspired. Yeah. Favorite country to visit?
Oof. No, probably Spain, because I don't know Spain, but no, I mean, there's the world is such a big place that I think that all my countries are favorites. I mean, I just fall in love with every place that I visit.
What are 3 things you can't live without?
3 things that I can't live without.
Be careful.
My wife, my kids, traveling.
Yeah. And who's your favorite person in the industry?
Oof, I have to say Colleen Tabor from Gardens America. She was one of the first people that I got to work with, and it was like a lot of fun. And she was just a prankster. She was a tough cookie, and I loved it because she just pushed you to the limit every single time that you interacted with her.
That's awesome. So, and final, what's next for Komet?
Oof. So right now we're really focusing on building, on top of what we already built. So we keep, just expanding all the things that we have. So again, a lot of cool stuff, Again, I can't really get into the details because we run out of time. But the next big thing for Komet is to really, really focus on adding an exponential amount of value to our existing customers, to our new customers, to our customers, and to our customers' vendors. That's what's really coming up.
I think it's awesome. I think it's a great plan, Alejandro. What is next for Komet? Cool stuff. Focus is adding value.
Yep.
Perfect.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, it's been a lot of fun here. I feel like we've 30 minutes has gone by super fast. I have 50 more questions for you.
Yeah. 30 minutes is nothing when you're having fun.
Yeah. Who does your beard?
it's secret, because if I tell David, he'll probably go and hire that guy, and it's private, so I can't really share it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again, Alejandro. This has been really fun. I look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, Corrine, we'll catch up at the show. Great,
Yeah.
Great to be here. Thank you to the Bloom Show, and thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been phenomenal, sharing this 30 minutes with everybody that's here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I was on mute. Thank you, Alex, for giving me the heads up. Shit happens, right? Thank you for giving me the heads up. But I was on mute again. Thank you to Corrine. Heck, I'm always so excited about these interviews, and when people bring their authenticity to these shows and their different twists. So thank you so much. Now, lighters are lit. Keep going. Michael's really cheering everybody on. And then I am heck with Corrine's husband, the Florida man. He's been cheering her on the whole time. So that is always awesome to see significant others cheering everybody on. So thank you guys for chiming in. And let me see if best thing for us, you're on mute. Yeah, everybody now I know I'm on mute. Thank you very much for the heads up. I do want to give some announcements, and the announcements are Women's Roundtable. Again, Corrine Heck will be the guest host this time. Again, we are doing guest host formats now just to give back to the industry, give more people a voice. So it's going to be an awesome episode. And the episode is going to consist of Bini Martinez Pacheco from Chrysler, Sheila Santiago. A lot of us always see Sheila, but we might not know her too well. So Sheila's amazing. So tune in to learn more about Sheila Santiago. Melanie Spillner for Fresh Path Marketing, another up-and-coming star in the flower industry. Kristen Gilead, Gardens America. That is actually Colleen's mom. Colleen's daughter. So that's super exciting that she will be on. It's just a lot of generations through Kristen. So it's really cool to have them come on. And then we are having the Blooming Leaders Roundtable. We're actually calling Kristen might not, sorry, I'm all confused right now. Corrine might not know this, but she is going to be our guest host on this one. And this one is going to consist of, and I'm the list right now, is Freddie Milero from Choice Farms, Jenna Gergerski, sorry, I'm horrible with last names, Rosa Prima, Nikki Fernandez from U.S. Greens Corp, and Yerandi Palezuela from Continental Floral Greens. So we will be talking to them through during March 7th during WUFSA, and that's going to be awesome because it's usually a way of bringing insight and bringing a behind-the-scenes view of what's going on WUFSA. And then we have the Bloom Together After Party. That's March 6th at 7 p.m. We have 45 different collaborating companies that have come together, put a small amount in of $175, and every penny is going to be used to making that event possible, and any penny left over will be donated to Florida State Florist Association and to Seed Your Future Fund. Super excited as well. I reach out personally and invited the mayor of the city of Doral because our purpose is truly to connect the floral industry community to the community of the city of Doral, as we know that it is a hub of our industry. She accepted a month ago, and we'll be there saying a few words. So if you want to speak to her, let us know, and that would be great to introduce you. But again, and if you do want to be a part of it for next year, reach out, pull me aside, let me know, and I will make sure to include you. And details and Komet sales have been sponsors since day one, so they are supporting. So they will be there as well. So it's a great opportunity to network, and everybody is invited. Just go to Eventbrite and sign up. I have a couple questions here. Let's see what's up. Just I am heck again. So he's not stopping. He's not stopping. He's going. So again, everybody, especially to Corrine as our guest host and to Alex as our guest, thank you so much for supporting, being here and putting yourself out there. We truly, truly appreciate it. And thank you for allowing us to continue to help the flower industry to innovate, connect, and bloom. Have a great day.